Is set, and history says don't count out the Hawkeyes. From shocking Michigan to toppling Ohio State and Penn State, Kinnick Magic, Iowa lives for these top 10 upsets. Today, we'll tell you how they do it Saturday against the Ducks.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We have been with you for over 20 years on the radio as I've been covering the Hawkeyes. You can hear me currently on the Iowa Sports Radio Network as we talk Hawkeyes with you there. Stations all across the state, including Des Moines, Sioux City, Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, and the Quad Cities. Today, we are going to break it down, the anatomy of an upset, what Iowa needs to do if they're going to pull off the victory against Oregon on Saturday with the 2:30 kickoff. We're also going to be joined by Tom Kakert from HawkeyeReport.com as he will break things down, give his perspective, and also he's got to look at some of the player props that are out there that are available, not in the state of Iowa, but in other states, and how that kind of paints the picture, all those presented by FanDuel. Plus a look at the weekend coming up in basketball for Iowa. But today, it is a look at the big matchup as another top 10 team makes their way to Iowa City. And as we've been breaking things down with you each and every day, we are your daily Iowa Hawkeye podcast. You know, one thing that has become very apparent in this one, going through, looking at historically how Iowa does this, one of the biggest things that jumps off as we look at these top 10 upsets that Iowa's been able to pull off. Kirk Ferentz, 5-1 in his career as an underdog against top teams in November at Kinnick Stadium, which is just an absolute incredible number. But the one thing that jumps out, and as you go through and look at 2016 against Michigan, as Iowa gets it done on the Duncan walk-off, 14-13. You go to the win back in 2008 against Penn State, 24-23, another walk-off victory in that one. You look at what they did against Minnesota when the Gophers came to town undefeated and ranked in the top 10 in November back in 2019. And even the one game that they lost when Penn State came to town, and that game, that was an earlier game in the season, not a November game, but when a top 10 team came in back in 2021. When you go through and you look at those games, actually 2019, excuse me for that one. I know the one outlier is Ohio State, right? When the Buckeyes came in, the Woodshed game, 55-24, that was the difference. But in all of the games, one thing that stands out more than anything, Iowa made some plays, got some breaks, forced turnovers. Yeah, I mean, it's many of the same things that we talk about. But the thing that jumped out more than anything historically is in all those games, Iowa really slowed down the run game of each of those opponents. Now, you remember 2016, that team came roaring in Michigan. They were running the ball against everybody. They were playing at an incredibly high level. They were able to do it in that game. Iowa held them to 2.8 yards per rush in that one. You continue on. Ohio State, different type of game, down to 5.4 yards per carry. That is the highest mark, though, against Iowa. Mentioned the Penn State game back in 2008. Penn State ran the ball for just 3.9 yards per carry, and that goes hand in hand with this one. Now, this Oregon team is different. And the way that they spread you out, the way that they go about things certainly is going to make things much more difficult, obviously, to hold them to something like 2.8 yards per carry. I mean, it's unrealistic. When you look at this realistically, what is a number to shoot for? What can you look at with a team that is, putting up the kind of numbers that they are running the football? I think holding them at minimum under 5 yards per rush. Now, remember, sacks are also included on that. No, look, if Iowa holds Oregon to under 4 yards per carry, I think they win this game, and win this game, I don't want to say handily, but comfortably. That they do win the game. It doesn't have to come down to a last-second field goal or anything like that. If they can hold them under 4 yards of carry, absolutely, Iowa's cooking with fire here, and they're going to be good to go. In this environment, with the weather that we anticipate we're going to have tomorrow, I don't think that Dante Moore is going to be able to chuck it around and throw for 300 yards against this Iowa defense. Now, here's another concern. And you go through and you look at those games and the way that they were built, these teams were built much more differently. That Michigan team, that Penn State team, certainly those two teams were built with power running elements. And though Oregon does that, they also work in space and getting you in one-on-one situations that make you uncomfortable. And with the questions that we've seen this year with Carson Shire at the linebacker spot, now it's Jaden Montgomery who's taken over as a starter at middle linebacker. And with both of those guys out there in space does leave you a little bit concerned. Now, what Iowa's done to negate that a little bit, and you go back to the game plan against Indiana and what it really morphed into throughout the course of that football game, is they're just bringing pressure. And they're going to keep you uncomfortable and go that direction. So I think that's a huge part of this when you go through is that pressure has to be there once again in this football game. Iowa generating pressure. It's a different look than what we're used to, with Phil Parker. That's going to be big. Now, how else does Iowa pull off these wins? How else do they get these victories against these top 10 teams? A lot of times it is not just winning special teams, it's dominating special teams. And we have talked throughout the course of the week, one of the more incredible stats that is out there in college football is that Oregon has allowed this season -1 punt return yard all year long. I mean, it's just unthinkable, right? To be able to do that. They do that with their punter using that rugby style punt. He runs out to his right and he does it, and he takes a really long time to deliver that punt, and then he'll hit that roller. You would think, all right, Kaden Wetjen, maybe he's going to be taken out of the game. And I think that is going to be a component. Here's the other part, though. Block punts? Absolutely. Lavar Woods is one of the best special teams coaches in the country, and here's an opportunity. You're seeing something that one of the advantages you have setting up those returns for Wetjen is likely going to be negated. But what you can do is apply pressure. Bring pressure, make him uncomfortable, and with it, potentially, you can get a return set up if you go that direction. Here's another thing that jumped out, though. And these numbers from Cody Hills, who's a great follow on Twitter, by the way. Cody had these numbers. As we talked about the punt return yardage, Oregon, again, giving up -1 yard all season long. They're first in the country. Iowa has not been very good, by the way, in that, as they're 119th in the country in opponent punt return yardage. But here's something that is very good. Kick returns. We know that they have to kick off at least once. Iowa is very good at coverage. Iowa is very good at kick returns, 8th in the country right now in return yardage. Oregon, by the way, 91st in the country in opponents' kick return yardage. There it is. So you're thinking about a Wetjen touchdown or a big return, maybe more likely in the kick return game than it is the punt return game. That made me pretty excited to see that there is maybe a different avenue for Iowa to get it done in the return game. Now, the other part of it is the kicking game. And this has been a conversation that we've had all season long. Our everydayers out there, you certainly know that I just have continued to be befuddled of something just seems off this season at the kicker spot. You look at what we're just grown accustomed to and what Stevens has been, and Drew Stevens, a tremendous talent. But the whole operation has felt different this year. And when you look at Drew Stevens, the misses, the one he had against Indiana that would have given the lead in the fourth quarter, the opportunity that he got for the 67-yarder against Penn State, it's not just that. It's just not the kicking part. It's the whole operation. Holder, snapper, all of it putting together. Well, now with an extra week to prepare, hopefully you're hoping that those kinks are worked out. Because another part of these upsets that Iowa's pulled, another part of the victories that Iowa's got is, the kicking game is a huge, huge part of it. I mean, you go through and you look at what Iowa has done. That has been another area that they've been able to get done. From the walk-offs, Daniel Murray getting it done. The walk-offs, victories, that is a part. So Stevens got to be ready to go. And Stevens very well could have a game winner for Iowa in order to pull off the upset in this one. Now, there's another angle that I don't like, and it is the betting angle. You know, if you listen to us every day, that yes, I like to dabble, more than dabble. I'm what some people call a degenerate gambler. Now, I don't bet a ton. I don't have a ton. Work in radio and podcasts, right? But stay within my means, have some fun with it. It is, for me, something that is a hobby. I don't look at it as a money-making endeavor. And if you follow my picks, you know that. Usually money-losing endeavor. But this week, everybody loves Iowa. From people in the betting space to just national voices that are out there. It feels like everybody thinks, like we hope, that Iowa's going to pull that off. Normally, that isn't great. That isn't a great angle when you are a bettor, and it is something that leaves me pumping the brakes just a little bit. But here it is. Slow them down in the rush game, force a turnover, dominate special teams. Kinnick, when it gets dark, it's just different. Let's get it done. Let's talk to Tom Kakert from HawkeyeReport.com. Tom's going to join us. We'll get a breakdown of some Iowa basketball coming up this weekend. We'll get his thoughts on the Hoopsters as they get ready for their matchup against Western Illinois on Friday evening and just what we've seen so far. Plus, we'll get Tom's thoughts. How does Iowa pull it off? Plus, some of those player props that are out there from FanDuel, Iowa, Mark Gronowski, over under passing yards. We'll do that as we come back with Tom Kakert on the Hawkeye Report podcast as he brings us HawkeyeReport.com. This is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Well, it's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. Well, Iowa off last week, so we got to go back a couple of weeks and talking about delivering in a big way. That was Reese Vanderzee. Great to see him back out there. The long touchdown, he is huge for this team going forward. And when the pressure was on, Vanderzee came through. No hesitation, no delay. If you've been watching week after week, you know this performance wasn't a fluke. Vanderzee, he's on a streak. And just like Reese Vanderzee delivered for the Hawkeyes, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period good through November 18th.
Tom Kakert joins us as he does every single Friday. Well, most Fridays. If it's not Fridays, one other day, but he joins us weekly. We are grateful to that. HawkeyeReport.com, part of On3 Media. Hey, Tom, Trent, and Ken, thank you as always for coming on. Get to football in a second. I want to start with basketball with you since they'll take to Florida tonight against Western Illinois. But I want to go back to the Robert Morris game. And Trent and I were probably way over the top, but it was just so different to watch a Hawkeye team so committed to the defensive end of the floor and the hustle needed in order to pull that off, the defensive effort that they did. It was refreshing to watch that, Tom.
Yeah, it was, that was a pretty good first, 5-6 minutes for the McCollum era when they're out there diving for balls and just playing really good defense and allowing just 2 points and scoring 17 and attacking the basket and just making plays. If I think if Ben could have scripted a start, it would have looked a lot like that. Just getting off to a great start. So now we'll get Act 2 tonight against Western Illinois.
Western Illinois, and then next Friday, a big one. Xavier comes to town, and it'll be a first probably push. I mean, Western Illinois is going to be terrible. They're, I think, 334 at Ken Palm, right in that same range of Bart Torvik. This is even worse than what you saw out of Robert Morris. But that aside, this basketball team, I know it's one game, but just seeing Bennett Sturts, and I know for a lot of Hawkeye fans, maybe that was their first glimpse. Maybe they didn't catch him in the tournament last year, didn't watch a whole lot of Drake basketball. You can't speed him up. He plays at his own pace. He is so smart, so skilled, and I think a lot more athletic than a lot of people believe.
Yeah, how about that dunk? Huh?
Yes.
I didn't see that coming from him. He even joked after the game it had been a while since he'd had a lob dunk. So, he's a guy you can't speed up. You can't, if he wants to go quick, he's going to go quick, and he just always under control, never flustered. Double team comes at him, he's fine. He's unflappable, and it's interesting, I thought, and kind of just, one of the side things that I was watching the game. I was like, Ben's going to have to find somebody else that he trusts a little bit eventually, because he had him out there for 35 minutes in a 30-point game. I mean, it's just like, maybe you might want to get Combs out there or somebody out there to to kind of give some minutes. But he does get him off the ball every once in a while. He'll have Combs bring it up, and Bennett goes kind of over into the corner and then stands around for about 15 seconds, and then he'll come off a screen maybe and try and make a play that way.
Yeah, he's got his wind. He's rested. He's ready to go again. He's unbelievable to watch. He truly is. Well, here we go to tomorrow, where we're not sure what the weather's going to be. I've heard it could be snow, could be sleet. It doesn't sound like it's going to be ideal. Regardless of what happens, it won't be ideal. So, Tom, but what worries me is just how many people love Iowa tomorrow, both locally and nationally. I mean, you heard Herb Street perhaps on McAfee. He's going crazy. Yeah. It just, there's too many people that love the Hawks tomorrow.
Oh, you know how it is with the public dog, the public home dog that everybody jumps on. We saw that early this year. Remember that Duke Illinois game? Everybody was on.
I brought that up earlier. Yes.
That's true degenerates. We'll remember that one. Yeah. And it was just like, everybody was on, Duke. And then they just get boat raced by like 25 points against Illinois. And that's immediately my thought was like, oh boy, there's too many people on Iowa. This is just not good. If you're a Hawk fan, and you just wish everybody would pipe down. I know you like the attention, and I know you like the love of it, but for those of us who dabble in the gambling space, this is always bad. Yep. It's just bad.
You sent me over some props from the other side of the river over in Illinois that are available on State of Iowa players. Couple jumped off the page. Now, start with the passing yardage total. I want to, Ken, take a blind guess.
Passing yardage for who?
For Mark Gronowski.
100. No, the weather's got to be factored into it. 124.
132.5. How about Dante Moore?
175.
204.5. I think Ken's liking the under on both of those. The one, though, that jumped out outside the passing one, Kamari Moulton. Tom, he's been so close. How many shoestring tackles have got him? Yeah. And the 1 weak spot of this Oregon team is their linebackers. Their linebackers have played, out of everybody, terribly in comparison to the rest of that defense. I think Moulton gets one. I think he rips off one of those 40, 50 yarders. The number's 54.5. I think if Iowa wins this game, yes, Gronowski's got to play well. He's going to have to run it well, but I think Kamari Moulton has to have a monster performance. I love that one at 54.5.
Yeah, that's not bad. A friend of mine who may dabble over on the other side of the river jumped on Iowa defensive touchdown plus 1,000.
Ooh, that's fun. In a game like this, it almost feels like they have to, right?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, there's the fumble, the wet ball, scoop and score kind of thing, something like that. Or, Dante Moore, pick six. He reverts back to freshman Dante Moore at UCLA. And, it's on the table. So, there may have been a dabble in that by someone today.
Since we're talking sports betting, sports wagering, and football, did you see that the case got thrown out against the student athletes that? I'm far from a legal expert, but man, I thought they had a slam dunk case against the state. I really did, and was dead wrong apparently.
Yeah, that's too bad. I thought so too, because it just seemed like the whole thing was ill-conceived.
Yes.
And I thought maybe they'd get something done, but apparently not. No. So it's just too bad that so many of those guys just got ruined. Yeah. Just missed their eligibility. I think about like Keaton Anthony, the baseball player. I mean, going into the Big Ten tournament, and that team was really good, and he's their 3-hitter or 2-hitter in that lineup, and he's gone. And boy, he's tearing it up, by the way, for the Phillies.
Good.
He's moving up, so he's having a really solid minor league baseball career right now.
Tom, always love to read your preview over at HawkeyeReport.com. You really dig in deep into things. I'll have people click on the article to read your official score prediction for the game. But as you were kind of unearthing things and really going under the hood, is there a stat, a number, anything that jumped out to you that said, you know what, maybe this does help Iowa a little bit? Give us a little positivity going into 2:30 tomorrow.
Boy, I think special teams are a big edge for Iowa. I just do. I think that's going to be an advantage. I don't think they have a kicking game that sticks with Iowa. I don't think they've got some talented return guys, but they're young and they haven't really done a lot yet. Like, DeCorian Moore is electric. If you've seen him play, he's really good, but he hasn't done a lot yet. Where Wetjen has just been electric. He just every time I swear to you guys, every time that another team punts to him, I'm at the edge of my seat. Up in the press box. I'm just like, okay, here we go. Here we go. It's just like, it's watching like, just this carnival ride. You don't know, you think it's just going to be spectacular at some point, and it usually is. It's just, he's special. I tell you what, I was really impressed by, but it won't probably matter because Iowa doesn't throw the ball very much, but their pass defense is really good, and they got a lot of young players back there, but they're really, really good. So that's one thing and their top three backs are all averaging like 7 yards a carry, at least. Some of them almost 10.
Jesus.
I mean, it's just crazy. And I think three of them are freshmen. So, I mean, they've just got crazy talent on that team. And I haven't even brought up the Sadiq kid, the tight end, who'd be a first-round pick in April.
Tom Kakert, HawkeyeReport.com, part of On3 Media. Tom, thanks for doing this. As always, appreciate it. We'll talk to you in 7 days. Thank you, Tom.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Yep, good to talk to you. Tom Kakert, as we check in on the Hawkeyes.
Thanks as always to Tom for joining us here as we get ready for kickoff. I just couldn't be more excited about it as we count down to the hours until the 2:30 kickoff on CBS Iowa, Oregon. Before that, we got some Iowa basketball. We'll talk about that as we continue. Iowa hoops on the docket. What do we want to see against Western Illinois? We come back with more Locked On Hawkeyes. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? How about this? Supply House has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. We all love that next day delivery. Certainly looking for that in my house as well. Plus, their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. Again, SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service, supplyhouse.com. Trent Condon back with you one final time on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Big thank you to our everydayers out there, our everyday listeners. We are your daily Iowa Hawkeye podcast, your team every day. That's what we do here on the Locked On Network, the #1 network for podcasts. All right, here we go. It is time. Iowa football against Oregon, the opportunity that awaits. We've taken it to every avenue. I can't wait to get over to Iowa City. Can't wait to do tailgating, even in the rain. Might be cold, might be miserable. I don't care. I'm just so excited for this. And this is what we live for. This is what we go through the offseason, leading up to the season, to have this opportunity, to have this chance, to have now also a little extra carrot. In the past, it's just about pulling off the upset. Now, there's a potential playoff bid that's connected to this one. And the excitement that goes along with that, not just beating a national brand in Oregon, not just showing off Kinnick Stadium, not just showing again what it's to be a Hawkeye, but now we also have the opportunity, if you run the table, you're in the college football playoff. And that even adds even more to the excitement. Before that, Iowa basketball against Western Illinois. Iowa's a huge favorite. At the time of the recording, Iowa, a 29.5-point favorite against the Leathernecks, who are bad. Maybe one of the worst teams in their league this year. I I'm interested to see tonight, do we see Trey Thompson. Do we see Trey Thompson? He didn't get out there in the opener against Robert Morris. And that's something that I definitely want to see. Obviously, still 17, should be a high school senior, what he can do. Some more extended play, potentially from Cale Combs, who's going to be the backup point guard this year. Like to see a little bit more from him and him playing out there, both in combination with Sturts, as we saw a little bit of that with Bennett Sturts and him playing together, but then also on his own. I know Bennett Sturts never wants to leave the floor. And it took 35 minutes before we see him leave the floor against Robert Morris. Want to see some more? The starting lineup, I think that's also intriguing. As Sturts told us before the season, they don't know before the game begins who's going to be the starter. Something that Coach McCollum likes to keep the guys on their toes, keep them engaged, and not knowing who's going to be the starter if it's going to look different tonight. So those are just a couple of things. Obviously, want to see them just on the defensive end. And I know there's so many people that are coming to town for the Oregon game. A lot of people I've heard from outside the state, and outside the region. If you're coming to one game, coming back for one game, this is a lot one that people had circled. So because of that, we're going to see any kind of bump on a Friday night for the attendance, but just seeing them play defense. Yes. Simple, but it was fun. We'll see more of that certainly coming up here this evening. That'll do it for today. Thanks for being with us. Potentially depends on how the night goes. So getting up early, getting to Iowa City on Saturday. We'll see how tonight goes. I'm calling high school football as well. Depending, might have a rapid reaction podcast after the Western Illinois game. We'll know when we do get back, though, from Iowa City on Saturday. We will have that for you after the Iowa-Oregon game. Oh, boy. I mean, it doesn't get bigger, right? And here we go. The build-up, it's fun. And now it's game time. Hawkeyes, pull it off. Slow down that run game. Force a couple of turnovers. And Moulton, let's have a big game out of Kamari. That's what I'm looking to see. We'll talk to you after it goes final. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Again, make sure you hit subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you're on the podcast side, 5-star reviews. Looking for more of those. All of that helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans and let you know when we are coming to your daily Iowa Hawkeye podcast. Thanks for being with us. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Until then, go Hawks.